All right. Hi guys. Um Aniki here. During this video you guys are not going to be able to see me, and I decided not to do a live stream for this because I can't pay attention to the chat and I wouldn't be able to really look at the camera while I'm doing this because I have a lot of things written down. I might skip some, I might not, but this needs to be told. Here's a disclaimer. This video contains graphic details and could be a trigger for some of you. It talks about abuse, suicide, drugs, the whole nine. It'll be a hard story to tell, as well as hard for some of you guys to hear. But it's my story, and this is my life. I'm breaking my silence as it is time, and it might help someone out there to not feel so scared, not feel so alone, and to always reach out for help. So I made two. I thought about making a third, but I'm starting to worry family and some friends. So I decided to keep it to two. Facebook posts. And if you guys haven't seen those Facebook posts, or you don't follow me on Facebook, I worried several people about it. And here's what I wrote. And there was no response. I did not respond to anybody. There's a reason for that. And I'll get into that. I'm going to break my silence. I'm going to out some people that might think that they're safe, that nothing can ever touch them. But I'm here to tell you, fuck you. How about that? So here's what I wrote on my first Facebook. If I vanished from the universe, who would notice? And who would even care? Second post. Alone, scared, hopeless, pain that never stops. Until one day, it's gone, and faith is restored. So those are the two Facebook posts I made. And as you can see, it might have worried a few people. I just want you to know, first of all, to relieve all of you, I'm okay. I'm not suicidal. There was a reason for those posts. So, first of all, I want to ask you, and I want you guys to think about that. Think about those two posts. Think about those words. Do we appreciate everybody? Do we take life for granted? Do we take the things we have? Do we take that one can of ravioli that sits in our cupboard? One jar of peanut butter? 3 slices of bread? Able to make coffee every single day? Be able to snap open a soda? Be able to use the bathroom? Be able to sleep in a bed? Not be able to pet our pets? Hug our kids? Hug our spouses? Do we take all of that for granted? Yeah, maybe a little bit. Maybe we're appreciative of our life and being able to wake up every day and just have life. But are you taking that shirt that you put on your back for granted? There's people out there that don't have a shirt. Do we take the people around us for granted? That they're just going to be there. We're expected that they're just going to be there. Are we taking that for granted? Because what if just one day they were just gone? No warning. No saying, hey, you got 2 weeks to live. Just gone. Think about that. I want you guys to seriously think about that. My second post, alone. You ever felt alone? I'm sure many of you guys have felt alone. Whether you live alone whether you're alone in your own mind, but just the ultimate silence of being alone, having no one, no one, no one to talk to, nothing. You have nothing. I'm sure some of you can relate to that. Being scared. You ever felt scared? You ever felt the ultimate being scared? I'm sure some of you have. Scared on a roller coaster, scared in life in general, scared for a loved one, scared for a pet, scared for a spouse, scared for a child, hopeless. Any of you ever felt hopeless? That no matter what you do, you could try to be the best person, the goodest person, the ultimate person, and give back and give back and give back. But it just seems so hopeless. No matter what you do, you go to the doctor and you continue getting bad news. That you're scared to go to the doctor. You ever felt hopeless? Ultimate hopelessness. Pain that never stops. Physical pain, mental pain, psychological pain, just pain. And you thought to yourself, when is it ever going to stop? Whether it's a throbbing headache, down to your soul is in pain. And then one day it's just, the physical pain is just gone. Just gone. Just like that. Just as a life can be taken, life is given right back, and that pain is gone. Gives you back a little bit of hope. Not feeling so scared. Yeah. So, who remembers this day? 1 year ago. Because it was great news all over YouTube, all over our community. It was great news. People were joyous. People were rejoicing. Right? How long did that last? Not very long. Who forgot about it? December 13th. Who forgot about that? Because it was a miracle that happened. So I'm going to let you guys think about what day this is as I tell you guys my story. I once had a good friend, a really good friend of mine, ask me, tell me about yourself. And I started to go, as a mother would. Well, I have 2 sons. No, tell me about yourself. Well, I have 2 boys. No, tell me about you. And I sat back and I thought about it, and I couldn't answer him. Because for so long I haven't had an identity. I haven't had that. It's revolved around trying to stay safe, trying to stay sane, be the mother. So I sat back and I reflected over these last 60 days of being sober, off of all my prescription medications, drugs, whatever you want to call it. And I reflected on that question. And it's bothered me ever since. Because I was never able to answer it because my identity was stolen as a young child. Okay, guys, I'm back. All right. So, here we go. I don't want this video to be super, super long. And I've recorded it a couple times. It's just too long. So I'm going to just read from what I have, okay? So, as many of you guys know, I grew up here in Colorado. And as far back as I can remember, my life has been frightening. Like, ultimate freaking fucking frightening. Excuse my language. Some of my childhood is missing. Like, just gone from my memory. Huge chunks. I have 2 brothers and a sister. A lot of you guys have seen my sister in videos and live streams. I had 2 very loving grandparents too. So they all play a role in this story, as well as my dad, my biological dad. But even having siblings, you still feel alone. Just that alone feeling. I'm scared. I remember being 4 or 5, being a flower girl and going shopping for my mom's wedding. She was getting married to a monster. And as I tell you guys this story, I'm going to refer to this person as a monster because that's what he is. That's what he still is. And his judgment will come. So coming home from that shopping trip, we were involved in a very bad accident. My mom was smoking. My sister and I were in the front seat, sharing the front seat. My mom was pregnant, and she threw her cigarette out. And she watched her cigarette go out. And we slid on ice, and we spun, and we hit a guardrail. And over that guardrail was hundreds of feet down. And my sister was flown into the dashboard, as was I. She hit her forehead, but she was okay. My mom was pregnant with my little brother, and he was okay. I hit so hard I split my chin open. I did not receive stitches because my mom wouldn't let them do stitches. So I have a scar on my chin, and this is one of many, many scars to come. The eternal scars are worse and more painful and harder to heal. From the time my mom married the monster is when the abuse started. I remember the monster fighting and arguing with my mom. The monster, that arguing always ended up in violence, in physical abuse. He was always stronger than any of us. So what could we do? He would make us watch as he beat my mom. He'd beat her till she was unconscious. He would pick her up and he threw her through a mirror. And this mirror was connected to her dresser, so it was a pretty large mirror. And then just took us away. And he watched the police come and the ambulance come and took my mom away. And we stood across the field and watched for the cops to leave our house. This monster always seemed to get away with shit that he was doing to us. He's still getting away with it. And then the abuse went beyond my mom. And it started sexually, verbally, physically, mentally, psychologically, abusing me, my sister, and my brother. My younger brother never got more than a yelling at by him because I was his biological son. Even though he witnessed the abuse to my mom, he never laid a hand on him. But still, the psychological abuse was there for my younger brother as well. Monster would threaten her life and our lives to stay silent, or else he would kill us. And then the abuse with me and my sister sexually started by him just merely tickling us. But tickling us to the point that he would hold us down. He would clench onto us. He would make us force our hands on him. That wasn't like any tickling that I enjoyed. I didn't want part of. The monster would overpower us. And then he was done, and he let us go. Being held there so tight, I'd feel so helpless and so scared. See, the monster stayed home with us when my mom went to work. I tried to tell my mom a few times, but the words never seemed to come out. We were yelled at every day for dumb things, such as using too much toilet paper. So he would come in the bathroom and watch you go to the restroom. And if you went number 1, you got 1 square. If you went number 2, you got 2 squares. Shit like that happened to us daily. Pretty fucked up, right? Well, that was light compared to what the monster would do to me and my sister and my brother. Hold on. Okay, I'm back. Sorry. I didn't want to be interrupted through the card coming and going. So throughout my childhood, we moved around a few times. We moved schools, me more than my sister and my brother. I moved schools quite a bit. The abuse happened all the time, every day, every night. Yeah, at night. The nightly visits from the monster. That's how I would tell myself in my head. See, the monster would wait until me and my sister were asleep. My mom was asleep. Then the monster would climb in bed. And the monster would hold you down. And he'd touch you. He'd touch you all over. Under your breasts. And on your vagina. I would try to hide around the house. I would try to hide under the couch, behind the couch, under the tables, downstairs, anywhere I could find. That I thought he wouldn't find me. But he always seemed to find me. On the occasions I was not home and spending the night at a friend's, he would abuse my sister. On nights that he would climb in her bed, I would be thankful that it wasn't my bed that night. I began to have nightmares. I never stopped sleeping through the night as a young child. Just stop sleeping through the night because you were just so scared. I remained silent. I endured it because I loved my mom and I didn't want him to hurt her, and he would claim he would hurt her or even kill her. Going to my grandparents was like salvation for me because there I was safe, protected, and he couldn't get to me while I was with my grandparents. I was also allowed to be a child there. Then when I was 9, they moved to Texas. And I stopped having any kind of escape from the monster. The abuse happened every night, either to me or my sister for years. The monster would beat my mom and my older brother. The cops would come. The monster would tell him my brother did it. So my brother would get arrested and thrown in juvie. It kept him with all the power. Because none of us even said anything. That's my brother's story to tell. That's my sister's story to tell. But it impacted me to the point of ultimate fear. And I stopped talking. I just stopped talking. I stopped trying at school. Just stopped caring. At 9 years old. Just stopped caring. Because to me, I thought the monster would eventually kill us. So why did it matter if I could read or write? Monster is just that, a monster. Then one day at school there was an assembly. And I can remember being the beginning of my 7th grade year, junior high. And there was this assembly, and they talked about signs of an abused child. And afterwards, I walked up to the counselor and I told him, hypothetically, if I knew a friend that was being abused, what would happen? And he told me. I gave him more specific details of my friend, hypothetically speaking, of course, of all the details of what was actually happening to me. He told me what would happen. And I went about on my way to lunch. After lunch, we went to our next class, where I received a pass to go to the office. I remember thinking to myself, I remember shaking, I remember fear, because the truth was going to come out, and I was going to be okay. As I walked up those long stairs to the office, I turned the corner, and there I knew I was in trouble. Because to my surprise, there was the police, my mom, the counselor, the principal, a few other people I didn't know. The room was quiet, just silent. I said nothing, made no eye contact. But my mom tried to get me to say things. We're fine at home. But I said nothing. Said nothing. I gave a simple nod of my head. No. Then silence in the room broke, and the counselors asked me a series of questions where I had no words of response. Just the nod of my head, yes. Then the room got chaotic. The police had already been to the monster's work and arrested him. The police had taken my sister and my brother from school. My mom was scared to tell them. And my world was getting ready to turn upside down. I rode with a very nice lady to the police station. It was very quiet. I was more alone than ever. I remained silent, with only just a few nods. As I sat in a room with my siblings at the police station, with them telling me to tell the police nothing happened. But I sat in silence. They were frightened. They were frightened of what would happen when we got home. Then I just blurted it out at my brother because he was so mad. And I yelled to him, but it did happen. And it is happening. From there, I didn't talk for almost an entire year. When I said these things to my brother, we were being watched. We were being watched by the police and by my mother. And then a woman came in and they just took me away. Had nothing, no clothes, nothing. I had nothing but whatever I was wearing. And they took me away from all of it. I don't really know what happened to my brother and my brothers and my sister. I never asked. I got taken away from all of it. The monster, my mom, my siblings, school, friends, all of it. Just gone. That night I was taken to a home where I was given a bed and a different set of clothes. It's the same household, just different people. The abuse was there too. So I was moved multiple times till I came to a peaceful home. And after time, felt a feeling that I didn't have. And that feeling was love. I was being loved. I finally started sleeping through the night, but the nightmares continued. They were fewer and fewer, but they are still there. I received counseling and schooling. The rights of my mom were trying to be taken away so that this family could keep me. But that wouldn't last. And I was removed and was put back in to the care of my mom. See, the monster wasn't allowed to live with us. But even that wouldn't last. The monster returned. Only the sexual abuse stopped. The rest of the abuse continued. We were sat down and we were sworn to keep this secret from everyone. We weren't allowed to tell anyone. So I moved schools to a Catholic school. And of course my mother blamed the public schools for me speaking out. She was never able to come to terms with what had happened to me and what was happening to her and is still happening to her. So I moved schools to Catholic schools. I was years behind in my learning, but I did catch up. And I moved schools again, of course, to a different Catholic school. And this is where I met my best friend, and we are still best friends to this date. And I told her everything. I spent a lot of time with her and her family. I eventually was tired of the abuse at home because it wasn't now not just coming from the monster, but also my mom. And so I ran away. Her mom had no idea I was there for weeks. The police came looking for me, and eventually I told her mother that I was there. And when my mom came, my friend's mom told her that I could stay. But that didn't last either. There would be no rescue for me. There would be no hero for me. I still spent a lot of time with my best friend and her family. But at home, it was a nightmare. It was terrifying. Ultimate terror. All the time. I never told my story and what was happening to anyone but my best friend. My older brother was eventually kicked out and was in and out of trouble. My sister spent a lot of time with her friends, and she was eventually kicked out, which just left me alone, scared, helpless. High school came around, and I spent a lot of time at school during school activities, groups, sports, anything I could do just to not be at home. And my high school was smack in the middle of my house and my best friend's house, and I spent more time at my best friend's house. But then I was eventually, as well, kicked out by my mom. We were all kicked out by my mom, by the monster, and my mom. We all eventually ended up back at home. Home. What a silly word. In Catholic school, we learned about God and his love and mercy. But what was God's plan for me? And why did I have to go through this? Asking why a lot and praying. See, I would come and go from home until I was a senior in high school and got pregnant with Kynan. And I eventually dropped out. and I got a job in childcare. And Kynan's dad left me 3 months pregnant, so I had no choice but to get a job so I can support my son. But I would teach my son about love, about being safe, spreading kindness, and never feeling alone or scared. I'd always be there for him. And a lot of you guys know Kynan, and that's exactly who he is. So I eventually moved out of my house, and I haven't been back there since. We would go there to visit and go there for holidays, birthdays, things like that, but never moved back. When I was 19 and pregnant with Kynan, though, I wanted to know my dad. I wanted Kynan to have a grandparent, a good grandparent, and I was able to talk to him. And when Kynan was 2, we finally got to meet. He came for a visit, and he started coming several times a year for those visits. He lived in Minnesota, and boy, were we 2 peas in a pod, let me tell you. I eventually told my dad what had happened to us as kids. He was angry. He was sad for us. But he loved us. My nightmare was over because I was finally out of that house. And I would teach my child not to ever be like that. And to always be able to come to me with anything. Trust me with anything. The word trust. Wow. Right? You tell somebody something because you think you can trust them. That trust is ruined. So, as you see, my childhood was not easy. It was hard. And now I'm alone with the baby. And my sister was there. She helped until she moved away as well. I got a lot of counseling. I did. I really did. I got a lot of counseling, which didn't really work. I blocked out a lot of my childhood, and I numbed it away with alcohol. Me and my best friend would drink every night. We went to clubs, bars, parties. Kynan would stay with my sister or a close neighbor. But I would drink because I didn't have to have the nightmares at the end of the night. I met a guy and I got pregnant. We were dating it's not like I met him that night and then just got pregnant. We dated for a long time. I would say 2 years, and I became pregnant. And my house was broken into, my apartment. And I was beaten with a metal rod. And a few days later had a miscarriage. I mourned for my baby. I still mourn for that baby. And I had no choice but to move out, find a new place for me and my son to be. So that this person wasn't found, couldn't find me. After that, I drank a lot. Even more than before. But I knew that it needed to stop because I needed to go to college, get a degree so I can make a better life for me and my son. And that starts another chapter of my life. I met a good guy. You all know him as Craig. And he was good to Kynan. He's a dad to Kynan. And eventually became pregnant with Jackson. The pregnancy was not easy. I was very sick during it. Let me go back a few before I became pregnant. Kynan's dad took me to court for custody. And I eventually won, and I won sole custody, and he got every other weekend visits with Kynan overnight, Saturday through Sunday. Had to be home Sunday for church. Well, it happened to be his first weekend away. Never been without Kynan overnight like that. Me and Craig were fighting. He wasn't answering his phone. And I couldn't get a hold of him. I couldn't be there to protect my son. If he needed me, if he was scared, I just wasn't there. This was his first overnight visit with his dad. And I drowned in being alone. I drowned in my thinking and my thoughts, to where it led me to swallow a bottle of pain medication. Percocet, to be precise. I don't even remember where I got the bottle from. I literally don't remember. I swallowed the whole bottle. I waited for the pills to kick in and take me away from this, at that time, miserable place where I was at. Just take me away. I wrote a note for my son. And I left a goodbye message to Craig. And then I began to fall asleep. The next thing I knew, I was waking up in the ER with my stomach being pumped and being forced to drink charcoal and put on suicide watch. I was eventually released and started therapy again. I started going to church. And there's where my healing began. God began to heal me. I started having a relationship with God. And as many relationships, you have to work at it. And I know you're all thinking, if Craig had stuck around after that. And, well, we have Jackson, and we live together, so there you go. Yes. He is stuck by my side. Even though we were on and off for many years, he's always stuck by my side. We struggle. We struggle every day. The relationship was hard. And when I became pregnant with Jackson, I was very sick during that pregnancy. But I decided to go to school. I decided I needed to get my degree. I needed to finish it off. And eventually, after Jackson was born, I got my degree. Straight A's, by the way. I couldn't figure out why I was so sick after having Jackson. His birth was hard, having an emergency C-section. But that happens every day. But I was still very sick. And I couldn't figure it out why. Something was very wrong. And eventually ended up back in the ER months after having Jackson with a blood clot in my lungs. Spent a week and a half in the hospital. Craig and my sister took care of the boys. And I still didn't feel good. And I kept fighting. Meanwhile, I started to notice Jackson was sick. He wasn't holding down any food. He couldn't keep down formula. He was just projectile vomiting. And he was diagnosed with reflux. So I had to keep fighting for myself during this time to get anything, any kind of relief. I was tired. I was I was lethargic. I was fatigued. I was in pain. I couldn't understand where it was coming from. And I was eventually, put in the hospital. And about a year after all my symptoms had started, so Jack was a little over a year, I was put in the hospital and went through a series of tests, stress tests, all kinds of different tests, blood tests, x-rays, all these things. And was eventually diagnosed with fibromyalgia, a heart condition, and high cholesterol. Now I'd already been diagnosed with depression, anxiety, panic attacks. Boy, would this diagnosis set off a chain reaction of events in my life. I was put on cholesterol medicine, Lyrica, Soma, Percocet, Tramadol, Xanax. I was barely functioning. I guess I look back at it now, and I was always in pain, and nothing ever helped that pain. But back to the story. I continued those meds for years, eventually taken off of the Tramadol and the Xanax. But the regimens never were better. If the more you hurt, the higher dose your pain meds went. Nothing ever helped. And then Jackson had his first surgery at 1. Now, to tell you guys the rest of my story, I have to tell you a little of Kynan and Jax also. Still pain every day. Meanwhile, the doctors would just give you more pain medicine, shove them down your throat, which led to an addiction problem. I didn't see, didn't know, but fighting for Jackson's life and fighting for him, I didn't worry about me so much. But like I said, everyone knows Jack's story. So I'll tell you, during the time from when he was 3 to 15, there has been tragedy in my life. 12 years of sorrow, pain, feeling alone, anxious, panicky, you name it, I had it. Kind of also was just feeling alone. And then eventually was alone. But being a single mom of 2, one in and out of the hospital, and the other son needing to go to school. Okay, back to the story. I don't even know where I left off. Okay, I'm just going to start right here. Everyone knows Jack's story. So I'll tell you, during the time from the time he was 3 to 15, there's been tragedy in my life. 12 years of sorrow, pain, feeling alone, anxious, panicky, you name it, I had it. Kind of was also not just feeling alone, but was alone. But being a single mom of 2, one in and out of the hospital and the other one at home or needing to go to school, my sister helped when she lived here. When she moved away, I was stuck. So taking Kynan with me when I could and leaving him at home alone. Where was anybody to help? Where was any family to help? Where were my friends to help? Yeah, not alone. That word alone is in my story so much. But being alone was literal for me. Okay, so I asked you guys all a question at the beginning. What day is this? December 13th. Well, fighting for Jack for 12 years. 1 year ago, he was cured from an incurable disease. Still never diagnosed. But I started my channel to tell Jackson's story and to get him out of bed and out of the hospital and out in the world. I watched him fight for his life for years. He fought suicide, suicidal thoughts. He fought for every breath, every step. But if God was going to take him, I wanted to show him the world outside of the hospital whenever I could. When he wasn't in the hospital, he played sports. He did karate, he did taekwondo, he went to school. He just lived. I was told once by a second grade teacher to never treat him as a sick child, but just as a child. And I did. I never thought I'd make an impact on anyone or make any friends here on YouTube. I just wanted the memories in case God took my son. And the people were reaching out to me, and the story I told you has never been told to anyone except for my best friend, Kynan's dad, and Craig. And now the world knows. I was blessed. I know, weird to look at my life and say blessed. But God blessed me with a drug-free life now. Blessed me with my boys. Blessed me with a man who has stuck by me for 17 years. Off and on, but still has always been there. For me and my boys. Well, I've met some amazing people here on YouTube. But along with those amazing people, there's also those hateful people. There's so much hate here too. I am sorry, but only we can change ourselves. That's all we can do, is we can change how we behave to people. I met people here who helped me, who has stuck with me in my journey and Jackson's journey. 2019 started out with a cured child. So now it was time to work on me. I've always had this really bad stomach ache for the last couple of years, until it got so intense I ended up in the ER. Had emergency surgery twice. They removed my gallbladder and cleaned my bile ducts. Bile ducts. Wonder if that's where Jackson got it. I had dental work done. Many of you know that I've had all my top taken out and majority of my bottoms taken out, my teeth, and healed from that. I gave up my addiction to pain meds. Now brings us to 64 days later. 64 days. Those 4 days were pure hell. Pure hell. It was some of the worst, most intense pain I ever felt. But the following 4 days was no better. You couldn't eat anything. You couldn't drink anything because it just came right back out. You didn't sleep. You sweated. You had chills. You were hot. You were cold. It was the most awful 8 days of my life. And I've been through a lot, and that was the most awful 8 days of my life. And eventually it started to become just a little bit better each day. I stopped thinking about it as much. This is one of my biggest struggles, was coming off the pain medication, which doctors for the last 6 months have told me that those pain medications wasn't going to help my fibromyalgia. So as I began to recover, I pulled away from YouTube. I pulled away from a lot of people, but people also walked away from me. They didn't stay by me. They weren't supportive. They just were selfish in their own selfish way. And they didn't understand. It wasn't easy. It still isn't. But on the 17th day, well, before I tell you about the 17th day, I'm going to tell you that months and months before I got clean, this neighborhood Pills fly around like candy. Drugs, weapons, everything you can think of is in this neighborhood. So, on the 17th day, someone asked me if I wanted some. I was really struggling that day. But I said, no, I don't do that anymore. And that was that. So I closed my eyes. I closed them as tight as I could possibly close them. And I prayed. And I prayed harder than ever, you know. I prayed. And I felt a feeling of peace come over me. It was almost as if I had my eyes open and I was staring into a spotlight. It was so bright. It was like I was warm and encased in this ball of energy that I felt from the tip of my head to the tip of my toes. And that addiction pain was gone. Just gone. So when I say that on my Facebook post, pain that never stops, and then it's just gone, and my faith is restored, that was my 17th day. I appreciate the people that have stuck by me every day. I could just simply type to somebody 24 days and get 24 hugs back. I could simply type, it's hard today. And my friend would start up a conversation. I'd get a random call to go through a car wash with a friend. A random text message asking me how I am. Little cards, little gifts coming in from people throughout these 64 days. Being sober, I see clearly. And during these 64 days, my life has been threatened. My son's life has been threatened. I'll be right back. Okay, guys, I'm back. So yes, my life was threatened. My son's life was threatened. And this might shock you guys, but it was threatened by a family member. And I see these Facebook posts on what an awesome artist he is and what an awesome person he is. You know what? He's a horrible person. He's a horrible person, and he's never there for anybody else but himself. I'm not going to sit here and be, oh, well, I don't take life for granted. I don't take those things I take things for granted. I do. I do. We all do. But to threaten somebody's life, to threaten somebody's son's life for your own selfish needs, not okay. But I forgive you, but you're no longer a part of my life. As well as I have pretty much extinguished people in my life, including my mother and the monster, from my life. I'm tired of being abused, because when you put somebody down or you say mean things to somebody, you don't know what that's going to do to somebody. Well, you're not taking me for granted anymore. I can hold you in my heart and love you, but I don't have to have you a part of my life. Your abuse stops today. And I waited for these 60 plus days to tell my story, because like I said, being asked, no, tell me about you. I never had my own identity until these last 64 days. And I have embraced people that have stuck by me, that have not said, well, she hasn't come to my chat, so, oh well. That's not a way to treat somebody. You don't know what happens behind somebody's closed doors and the struggles they have. You don't know. So you should never treat somebody like that. It's not okay. So, I really want to say thank you to my friends out there. You guys know who you are. Don't need to say it. And let me tell you, it's not many. We have to stop taking life for granted. We have to stop taking the people around us for granted. We have to stop thinking, well, if I just don't talk to them today, they'll be fine until tomorrow. You don't know that. Time is precious. It's all we have is to make every minute of your day count. I understand some people click better with others, but it doesn't mean that you need to spread hate. So, I'm going to leave you guys with these few words. And then I'm going to close out this video, and then I'm going to post it tonight. And I hope to God all of you guys listened this far. If you have any questions, please let me know. There will be no more secrets here. And people that have stood by me, thank you again. People that haven't, you can just see your way out. Because I don't have time for abuse from anyone. And I'm not going to take it any longer. So I'm going to leave you with these few words. 1, I am worthy as a friend. And so are you. I'm a beautiful person with my scars inside and out. And so are you. I'm not alone. Neither are you. Be myself. Because people are going to love me for me. And people are going to love you for you. I'm brave, but so are you. Smile, pass a smile, smile through your pain. You can make a difference. Don't make somebody ever feel like they just need to disappear.